Vladimir Putin has been very much in the news this week. In India, he made headlines because of this video and some remarks that he made about Prime Minister Narendra Modi, saying that he has taken India to a position where it will not be pushed around by anyone.
I cannot imagine His Excellency Modi getting intimidated or being forced to take any steps or actions that would go against the national interests of India and the people of India. And there is pressure against him, I am aware of that. We never talked to him about that. I can see that. And to be honest with you, I am amazed at his strict position to defend the national interests of India. We do see that.
But Putin turned heads around this world when he flew to West Asia on Wednesday. The presidential plane was escorted by Russian Sukhoi 35 fighter jets. Take a look at this. The visit was not made public until the last minute, which explains why people couldn't help but ask what's happening. Putin has rarely left Russia since March, after the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant against him. But this week, Putin was in the Gulf. He landed in Abu Dhabi, where he was received by the UAE's Foreign Minister Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed. And then he was escorted by cavalry to the Qasr al-Watan Palace. There, he was received by UAE's President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. And he was given a 21-gun salute. The anthem of both Russia and the UAE was played. Both the presidents walked along a guard of honor as the UAE's aerobatics team drew the Russian flag in the sky. You can just imagine the grand reception that Putin received, the kind accorded only to a leader on a state visit, and then a really special state visit at that. Now, what was on Putin's agenda? Trade, energy, technology, and the wars. The Kremlin claims that in 2022, the bilateral trade between Russia and the UAE hit a record $9 billion. Putin told the UAE's president, and I'm quoting here, "Today, thanks to your posture, our relations have reached unprecedented levels," unquote.
Indeed, the United Arab Emirates is Russia's main trading partner in the Arab world. A number of large projects in the oil and gas sector are being implemented. We also cooperate through OPEC+.
There are also strategic talks between Russia and the Gulf Cooperation Council, and this further strengthens our relations and expands areas of cooperation, consultation, and exchange of views, whether on bilateral relations or regional and international affairs.
The UAE and Russia also cooperate as part of OPEC+, or the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Its members pump more than 40% of the world's oil. The oil cartel, of course, its most important member is Saudi Arabia, which is where Putin headed after the UAE. Putin landed in Riyadh and was greeted by Saudi and by Russian officials. He met the Saudi Crown Prince for what was their first face-to-face talks since October 2019. Like much of the UAE, most of what happened in Saudi Arabia was off camera. All we have is this brief television sit-down.
Your Highness, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the invitation. We were expecting you in Moscow. I know that adjustments had to be made to these plans due to the circumstances. But like I already said, nothing can prevent the development of our friendly relations. We have stable, good relations in politics, economy, and humanitarian spheres. And of course, it's important for all of us to exchange our information and our views about what's happening in the region.
So what did MBS and Putin talk about? The Kremlin says they spoke about energy and OPEC, of course. Putin's delegation also included space and nuclear energy officials. During his visit to the Gulf, Putin also appreciated the region's stand in the war with Ukraine. Remember, just like India, West Asia too has chosen to remain neutral in this war, much to America's disappointment. And of course, it didn't take too long for the American President Joe Biden to react to Putin's lightning visit. Biden used it to make a case for fresh military aid for Ukraine.
Who is prepared to walk away from holding Putin accountable for this behavior? Who among us is really prepared to do that? If Putin takes Ukraine, he won't stop there. It's important to see the long run here. He's going to keep going. He's made that pretty clear. If Putin attacks a NATO ally, if he keeps going, and then he attacks a NATO ally, well, we've committed as a NATO member that we defend every inch of NATO territory.
Now, Biden's plea didn't generate immediate results. There was also lots of questions about the end goal of Putin's visit. In October, remember, Putin had visited China. He met Chinese President Xi Jinping, whom Putin has publicly called his good old friend. Now, note the timing of it all. Biden is struggling to get funding for Ukraine. Earlier this week, the White House said that the U.S. is running out of time and money. The U.S. Department of Defense has been allocated $62.3 billion in supplemental funding for Ukraine. By mid-November, 97% of it had run out. The State Department was allocated $4.7 billion in military assistance. All of that has been exhausted. All that was left was $1 billion in replenishment authority. Now that's a lot of money, but in war times, when we are talking about tanks and missiles, $1 billion doesn't mean much. While Biden stares at an empty Ukraine coffer, Putin is in the Gulf, showing the West that attempts to isolate him have clearly failed. He's also sending a message to the White House that its influence in West Asia is waning. This is also a show of confidence. These handshakes and bilaterals are Putin's message to the world that Russia remains a force to reckon with. And for more on all of that, we're now being joined by Dr. Sergei Markov, who's a former spokesperson for President Putin, former member of the Russian parliament as well. Dr. Markov, thank you so much for joining us. Everything that we've seen this week, this visit to West Asia, the remarks that President Putin has made about Narendra Modi and, being very positive about him, is all of this in a sense a message being sent to the world saying that Russia is not as isolated as you may think?
Of course, all these Vladimir Putin meetings with leaders of Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and with Iran, they have also bilateral schedule. With Saudi Arabia, it's price for oil, because both Russia and Saudi Arabia keep a leading role in the determining oil price globally. With United Emirates, it's first of all the ways of the trade between Russia and other world beyond US and European Union sanctions. With Iran, it's more about military cooperation. Russia very much interesting about cheap Iranian rocket missiles and cheap Iranian drones, because this war appeared to be very massive war. But Iran very much interested about Russian defense missile system and Russian military jets.
Just sort of take that point a little further. Is it entirely about bilateral issues and about West Asia or the Middle East? But is there also a message being sent in connection with Ukraine to say that, whatever is happening on Ukraine, some sort of a solution will have to be found?
I think that this negotiation about solution of the Palestine problem is another issue. As to Ukraine, Russia may probably send the message that not only offensive Ukrainian army had been stopped and crushed by Russian army, but also the system of the sanction war against Russia from United States and European Union and their allies also effect crushed. No isolation of Russia, no really working sanctions or sanctions against Russia, no result of the military supplying of Ukrainian army with ideas that probably Ukrainian army will crush Russian. No. So is this message that probably now time for negotiation, stopping the war and stopping the war in Ukrainian territory and stopping the hybrid war against Russia, which is conducted by United States and European Union.
Dr. Markov, thank you so much for joining us with that perspective. It's always such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for your excellent English. Yeah.